welcome to LATAM This Week. My name is Gustavo Ribeiro, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Brazilian Report. This week, I'm joined by Lucas Berti, who is one of the authors of our Latin America weekly newsletter and our Latin America correspondent. Hi, Lucas, how are you?
Hi, Gustavo. Thanks for having me.
So, Lucas, today we're going to talk about Peru, which is a country with no shortage of political controversy and turmoil. Congress is trying to impeach President Pedro Castillo, but today we're going to talk about another figurehead in Peruvian politics, Alberto Fujimori, who is the president who ruled over Peru during the 1990s. So he was serving a 25-year sentence for human rights abuses, and last Thursday, Peru's top court issued a ruling to release him from prison. And we were discussing this subject yesterday, and you mentioned that Fujimori suffered from what is called in Latin America the Pinochet syndrome. What is that?
Yes, Gustavo. Latin America is filled with cases of this satirical disease. It was originally coined by the New York Times in 1999, but later was ironically sent as a suggestion to the British Medical Journal. It basically describes how convicted or prosecuted dictators and authoritarian figures magically became sick or weak when close to judgment or an extradition order. It was the case for Chilean Augusto Pinochet, but has been the excuse for Fujimori on several occasions, like this early March when Fujimori had to face the courts for a case of forced sterilization. On the very same day the Peruvian justice started analyzing it, Fujimori had to be hospitalized for heart problems.
So, like I said, and you mentioned, Fujimori was serving a 25-year sentence. Why was he arrested in the first place? For people who don't follow Peru, what did Fujimori do in terms of his human rights abuses?
Well, the list is huge. In 1992, Fujimori dissolved the Peruvian Congress and intervened in the judicial power, something like ripping the country's constitution. Besides his self-coup in 2009, he was sentenced to 25 years for being the mastermind of the Barrios Altos and La Catunta massacres between 1991 and 1992. The crimes were in the hands of Fujimori's far-right death squad called Colina Group, created to chase the 90s Maoist guerrilla Shining Path.
But the left-winged armed groups were not the only targets of Fujimori, were there?
Yeah, that's right. Under the excuse of ending the Shining Path activity, the Fujimori-led anti-communist armed group victimized trade unions, activists, rural leaders, and even civilians who stood against his Fujimori government.
So, Lucas, before we continue, let me just make a break here. And I would like for people who are watching this video to go to brazilian.report/subscribe and support our independent journalism and subscribe to one of our plans. We have yearly or monthly plans, and they come as cheap as $3.90, which is much healthier and much cheaper than a Big Mac. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com and fill our coffee mugs and support our journalists. You can become a member of our Buy Me a Coffee community and receive perks like exclusive benefits, special newsletters, behind-the-scenes content, and the ability to ask questions directly to our journalists, and even a special shout-out on our podcast, Explaining Brazil, which is live every Wednesday. So, Lucas, back to Peru and Alberto Fujimori. What can we say about the massive sterilization case for which he has been accused and for which his family's legacy has been tarnished, besides the authoritarian ruling that he imposed in Peru during the 90s?
Well, that's a clear case of ethnic cleansing. During the years of the regime, the Fujimori administration created an opaque and badly explained family planning project that ended up sterilizing over 200,000 poor indigenous women in rural areas, many without the procedure consent. The government saw controlling birth rates as a way to fight resource depletion and economic downturn. And after several years of investigation, testimonies, and the work of human rights organizations, the case was finally embraced by the justice. Let's see now if El Chino, how he called, will last long enough to face the course once again.
Yeah, and still, I mean, it seems very unlikely that he will serve the additional 10 years at this point, right? Because the government said it will appeal the decision, but do you have any forecast for what we're going to see now?
Yeah, it's an important thing to analyze the Peruvian case, but what we also have the legacy of Fujimori, not just Fujimori himself, because that's an interesting part in Peruvian politics. Let's remember that Fujimori's daughter Keiko lost the 2021 presidential elections to left-leaning Pedro Castillo for just 44,000 votes. She even tried to turn the table and grab the sash in the upper hand, but failed. However, one thing is certain: despite being the daughter of a dictator and ignoring her father's crimes, Keiko is still an influential politics in the country. Who knows if she tries again in the next elections? She has also judicial problems, but in Peru, where almost all former presidents have been facing legal issues, we don't know.
That's not a deal breaker. But yes, let's just briefly talk about a little bit what is going on in Peru right now, because since Fujimori left power, we have seen a lot of instability at the helm of the country. The presidency was never as strong as it was before, and in recent years has become a sort of revolving door with a very strong and trigger-happy Congress, not shying away from pulling leaders that lose control of their coalition. This is the second time Pedro Castillo faces an impeachment request. What are his prospects right now?
Yeah, Pedro Castillo fell into an uncertainty scenario in Peru. And we have to remember that Peru, like Brazil and many other Latin American countries, had the Brecht scandal as a wrecking ball in political terms. So I guess that Peru in 2022, it could be like Pedro Castillo's first entire in office or his last one.
Lucas, thank you very much. And before we go, I would just like to ask once again for our viewers to subscribe to the Brazilian Report. Just go to brazilian.report/subscribe and support our independent journalism. We have exclusive content every day. You can also go to buymeacoffee.com and become a member in our Buy Me a Coffee community and support our journalists with a small donation and have a lot of perks in exchange. Lucas, once again, thank you very much. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell for notifications. Lucas, thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Gustavo.